Hey folks, welcome back to Failure Retirement. Since I'm kind of all queued up here today making YouTube videos, I thought I'd take the time and tell some more about my father-in-law and some more a little bit about my mother-in-law. Again, wonderful people. Spent a lot of time with them over the years, and I kind of think that my relationship with them was pretty unique. Certainly a lot different than Mrs. Failure's relationship with his folks. It's a pretty unique relationship, honestly. And I'll start with my father-in-law first. I was probably a little too hard on him in these later years. I kind of regret that slightly, but I used to just kind of give him a bad time. And the older I got and the older he got, the more I would do it. Not many people were really, I don't know if brave's the right word. Not a lot of people really gave him a bad time. He had a fairly commanding presence. And so, for instance, the whole time since I met him, all the way up until he was well into his 70s, he never rode in a car with me. He wasn't interested. It wasn't even an option. You didn't even ask, nothing. He never rode. In fact, I never saw him ride in a car with anybody that I can remember. I know he did a few times, but you could count them on your hand. He just always drove. Everywhere he went, he drove. And like I said, it wasn't even an option to say, hey, how about if I drive? Not an option till he was probably 77-ish, somewhere in there, 76, maybe, before he would say, yeah, okay. If you said, hey, how about if I drive? Maybe in the snow or something, he would say, yeah, okay. Or maybe late at night, going out to a restaurant or something when it gets dark early in the winter, maybe then. And he didn't really fight it too much. He just reached a point where he figured he was better off riding with somebody younger. That's all it was. And along those same lines, in our younger years, they'd take us out to dinner, I don't know, every month or two, depending on the time of year, what everybody was doing. And he'd never let a guy pay. And he wouldn't even consider letting me pay just my share, right? No, everybody was there, which it was always, I'm just talking his kids and grandkids and stuff, right? He always bought, and guy just stopped offering after a while because he wasn't ever going to accept it. You're just wasting your time. So then it was pretty interesting because then he retired. I believe he was around 70 when that happened, and stopped getting that paycheck. And you could just tell right away that things had kind of changed. And wasn't very far into it, he was okay if you offered to pay, and you weren't paying for his, but it became okay for you to pay, for your share of the meal or whatever. And so this is where I might have been a little too hard on him at times. It's just kind of made me laugh that he had this drastic change right around the time he retired, right? So I nicknamed him Fixed Income. And then every once in a while, I wouldn't really do it at a restaurant, but every once in a while when he was, maybe he would maybe we'd be talking about going on a cruise or something, and I wasn't expecting him to pay my way, but he would be pushing back, yeah, I don't know if I want to go on a cruise. And I would just tell him stuff like, come on, Fixed Income, like you're not as fun as you used to be. Back when you were working, you were a lot more fun. You did a lot more fun things, and Now that you're on a fixed income, you don't do that anymore. And I kind of regret that, but kind of not. It was funny, and that would make him grumble something fierce. Um, it was funny. It would get a laugh out of everybody in the room because everybody knew same deal, right? So that was my father-in-law, and then I honestly I never really knew how much I would miss the guy because we joked around about a lot of stuff. Like, don't get me wrong, he'd give some of it back to me. He wasn't scared. He'd give it back to me. But one of the ways I realize I miss him more than I thought I would is now his friend Jerry calls me. So Jerry don't have my father-in-law to pick up the phone and yak at, so he calls me. The people who know who I'm talking about, who know Jerry, they know that I miss my father-in-law if for no other reason than Jerry called him instead of me. I don't think Jerry's going to watch this. If he does, don't really care. I'm pretty sure Jerry actually knows what the deal is too. And then my mother-in-law, so funny. Like, I realized pretty early on that a guy could kind of get his mother-in-law a little wound up, and then the next thing, her go-to, and it didn't matter if it was me. There was a solid half dozen of us at the minimum that this would happen to. You get her wound up a little bit about something, and next thing you know, she's calling you a part of the anatomy that begins with an A and ends with an E, if you know what I mean. Stop and think about that if you need to. You probably don't need to. Anyway, that was a term of endearment for her, and I realized that early on, and honestly, that just encouraged me to just try harder. I just, you can't back down from that. If you know that you're getting under her skin to that level, you just take it there as often as you can, right? And so one of my favorites, and I didn't really start this until she was, I think, probably around 70. One of my favorites, we got a flying beast again. It's bad this time of year. Anyway, she would just be doing something kind of a little goofy, or maybe just be kind of a little forgetful or something along those lines. And she was up in her 70s, so it was all good. But I would just tell her, listen, old lady, you better stop and think about this because you got one foot in a rest home and one in a banana peel. So you choose your actions wisely. And that would always get a laugh out of everybody, including her. And then she would follow that up with her one word part of the anatomy that begins in A. And anyway, I know she enjoyed that. I know I did. And I'd give just about anything to be able to do that to her today and tell her worked out one way or another. We didn't have to put her in a rest home. Thank God. I didn't, even though I told her I'd do that to her all the time, I didn't really want to be the one to do it, if you know what I mean. We dodged a bullet on that one. Anyway, I appreciate you guys listening to my stories. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you next time on Failure Retirement. Have a good day.